not alone to make sense of all that we're going to hear today from the President. We're joined by constitutional law expert, Professor Pierre de Vos. Professor, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure to have you with us. A number of analysts have spoken about how important and significant this particular address will be. But before we get to your expectations around the address, we want to talk about the significance of it to begin with, because it's the first, preceded by the new joint rules that were adopted last year in November. What is the significance of this particular address where we're expecting to hear him outline the strategic objectives, policy priorities? Why is it significant?
Yes, so I'm a little bit skeptical usually about opening of Parliament or State of the Nation addresses because it is not necessarily that meaningful. We don't know if it will actually tell us much. This one is very different because there's now a coalition government. Parties with very different ideas, very different ideologies, different styles, and so this is the first time that the President, who heads the government, is going to have an opportunity, firstly, to explain to us what this government is going to do in the next 5 years, and I don't know if he will do that, but also maybe give us a little bit more insight into how the parties are going to work together. When can they disagree? How? We don't really know any of those things. So in that sense, it is also important that the change in the rules is really just to bring the joint rules in line with what is already in the National Assembly, in case, touch wood, there is some kind of disruption or attempt at disruption, and it is necessary then to remove members of the Parliament. Hopefully that wouldn't happen.
So I think one of the other interesting things, Prof, is what we're going to see tonight, because the Rules Committee has now agreed that Umkhonto Wesizwe is the official opposition, and therefore Dr. John Hlophe will be the leader of the opposition in Parliament. So that's also going to affect the seating arrangement in Parliament. We are told that there are still a few ends to be tied, but because you have 11 of the 18 parties in Parliament represented in the Government of National Unity, that's going to make for some interesting optics this evening.
Yes, so obviously in the past, the ANC was the government and its MPs were the governing MPs. They sat on the left, if you look from the TV screen perspective, and the opposition on the right, and then the DA for the past how many years have been the official opposition, and it's now changed. Correctly so, the Rules Committee said that you can't be the leader of the opposition and in the government. So I think for many of us it's still difficult to fathom that there are these different parties, including the DA, in government. They are different parties, but it doesn't mean they are in opposition, which is, of course, another thing that is going to be very interesting afterwards, to hear the political party leaders respond, because now suddenly one would have to see if suddenly now people who previously would have been very critical but are now part of the government, how are they going to deal with that? It's quite significant in that sense.